Hello there, Sorry from 17 once again. This is my Titanfall 2 Master Difficulty Movement walkthrough. This is the mission Trial by Fire, and it's going to be kind of an exempt of this particular run in a lot of ways, because if you've played this mission before, you know there's not really much opportunity to be a pilot in it. Most of it is focused towards Titan warfare, which is not a problem at all. I think the Titan warfare in this game is incredibly fun. There are just a couple of factors in this level that really detract away from what I would have liked to have done with this particular video series. So at the very beginning here, you're going to be assailed by a lot of Titans, and the checkpoint is kind of later than you would think it is. So you want to use some distance, counter-snipe as many of the Titans as you can, and just let your team do whatever they're doing. I'm going to be taking on the role as a Tone and doing support fire from the back and using my shield when I get in trouble to get my shield back, and essentially just to guarantee survivability. It's nothing new, it's nothing you've not seen before, and it is effective. I would have liked to have completely gotten out of BT and done this as a pilot, but the game makes certain measures that make it impossible to do this. So if you've never watched me stream over on Twitch, I actually streamed a run of this game on PC on easy difficulty, and I had a couple of cheat engine things happening which would enable me to have unlimited ammunition without reloading. And what this did was, when I picked up an anti-Titan weapon, I had unlimited anti-Titan rounds, so I could use it to fight against Titans. And even on easy difficulty, with unlimited ammunition, fighting against the Titans is harder than anything in this game if you're a pilot, sorry. On easy, fighting Titans as a pilot is harder than the entire campaign on Master, all combined, because of how the game is kind of structured. They have very specific ideas of what they want you to do in this game, and if you go against those ideas, you just die. It's kind of absolutist in its design in a lot of ways, and I don't know if this is intentional to make it so that, oh, there's a Titan, better get in my Titan, there's your Titan gameplay, and then when there isn't a Titan, I can get out of my Titan. This kind of idea of a hierarchy of survivability again, that word I'll keep using. This notion that if you see a Titan, fight it with a Titan. You know, it's the rock, paper, scissors. Titan v Titan, human v human kind of situation. And that sounds great, and it is great for the most, until somebody like me comes along and says, but I want to be a pilot. So, what are your options against the enemy Titans? You can rodeo them, and you can chain rodeos. When you jump off, you can jump back on, and that works quite effectively, but it takes a lot of rodeos to kill just a single Titan, and in these encounters we're taking on 3 to 4 to 5 Titans, which is a lot. Your other alternative is to hit them with an anti-Titan weapon. So your first obstacle there is finding an anti-Titan weapon. Your second obstacle is getting one with enough ammo to kill a single Titan, let alone 5 or 6. With Cheat Engine, that's not a problem. So you come here with your Sidewinder, or you come here with your Archer, if you can find an Archer in the campaign. I don't even know if they exist. I hope they do. Or your MGL, or whatever tool of the trade you like to use. And then you give your best performance against these Titans. You're wall running, you're bunny hopping, you're being evasive, you're staying alive, you're shooting it with everything you've got. You finally kill one, and then BT dies. And that's the reality of this sequence. That's the reality of what I'm trying to do here. Other than using a specific code of the cheat engine to make BT invincible, which I don't even know if you can do, but I'm sure if you try hard enough you can probably figure it out, there's no way to fight Titans as a pilot in any kind of feasible manner, even on the easiest difficulty. So on Master, it just turns into, I'm going to be in my Titan the entire time. And I would love for somebody to mod PC to make this not the same, to make this actually something viable and something fun to do. But I doubt that'll ever happen because of how difficult it can be to mod certain games. I don't know if the security on this game is very difficult to do that with. I'm not entirely sure, I don't know enough. But it would be fascinating to see a mode where we could actually dodge Titans effectively while moving. Because as it stands, if you're wondering what's the big danger and what kills you the most, it's always the same thing. The Titans have aimbot. So if you, even when you're moving, even when you're jumping, even when you've got momentum, it doesn't matter. If they don't miss, you die. That's kind of it. It's a coin toss every time. And it's one touch on every difficulty from every weapon, because they've set it to be that way to emphasize you need to get in BT to give him a purpose. Makes a lot of sense. It just kind of goes against, what I'm trying to do. And then the other one is, when you get close to the Titans, they do this wonderful jumping punch. If you've never seen it, play Frontier Defense, it's all over there. In Frontier Defense, you will die to that jumping punch more than anything, because it doesn't have to hit you, its detection is very generous, and if you do not mantle the Titan, you're fucked. Like, if you go to jump on a Titan and somebody's already on it and you don't realise, you're dead, because that punch will hit you every time. And if you've seen me stream Frontier Defense, you know I'm the crazy guy who plays the pilot the entire time and tries to win and lead the lobby as a pilot, and it's a lot of fun for me. So an extension into the campaign is just gravy, right? But it doesn't allow that to be done. So as I say, it would be nice to be able to have some kind of parameter where perhaps when we're moving, the accuracy of the Titans is really, really low. And if you keep momentum, and if you're wall running or if you're jumping, it lowers that hit ratio. But if you stand still, you know, the accuracy goes up. And some kind of decaying system where as long as you are evasive, you cannot be hurt. As long as you're intelligently being evasive anyway. And then potentially when you get close to them, maybe have it so there's some kind of telegraph or some kind of thing that tells you he's going to try and punch you, because the AI punches really quickly. And it can be very difficult to do anything about it. And then when you're in it, what can you do? Not much. Which is why it would be nice if we had access to some kind of mods. Can you imagine if you could use the boosts and the tactical abilities in the campaign? Because the campaign gives you Cloak for the duration, and Cloak's kind of useless in my opinion. It's useful for certain things, but not for how I want to play. Can you imagine if you could stim in the campaign? Can you imagine the crazy stuff you could do with the movement with stim? The only reason I could think of that you can't use stim and phase shift and all those other ones is because it would probably break the game, and it would enable you to completely skip levels they didn't want you to. Like, imagine grapple. Using grappling campaign, you would be able to 100% get out of the map, go behind the world, and then get to the end and speedrun the tits off it. But they never gave us the option. There was no New Game Plus, there was no choice. It was just, this is not how we want it to be, this is the experience that we've made. And I think the experience is great, you know, I love this game. This is probably like my 7th time through this campaign. I play this a lot, because it's just a fun campaign. But there's always a part of me that wants to take it further, take it one step ahead and things of that nature, and you really can't. And I've tried on PC. Like, there's a few things I'd like to add via mods. I wish I understood how to do that stuff, and when I Google it, I just get really confused. Like, I wish I had more programming knowledge than I do to be able to understand just how much work it takes, because I feel like I'm the kind of guy that could put the work in, but at first I have to learn it, and learning it is the hard part. Like, just the small things. I know you can mod the audio files in this game, so I would really like to mod it so that in Frontier Defense, when you kill Titans, it does that awesome sound effect for pilot kills from the multiplayer. Because I think that sound effect is one of the most addicting, awesome noises in a multiplayer, and it's not in Frontier Defense at all, and it would make it feel so much more satisfying on each kill. And I have isolated the audio file for that. All you would really need to do, if you think about it, is there must be some kind of trigger in the programming of the game that tells you when something dies. I don't exactly know what that trigger is, but all you would need to do is map that trigger, right, with that sound effect, and give it like the Gambit system in Final Fantasy XII, where whenever that trigger is tripped, it plays this noise. But that could be really easy to do. It may be possible to do, I don't know, I'm too ignorant unfortunately, but it would be really nice to have these features and to understand them. But look how fast we're moving, guys. We're playing as Scorch. We're moving fast because we're in the Vanguard body type, and we're moving into the next sequence, which is a very large-scale battle against a lot of Titans. And I've decided to use Scorch because you just don't see too much of it when you look for walkthroughs of this game. You don't see too much of it in multiplayer because Scorch is tricky to use, and in a lot of ways it gets outclassed by a lot of Titans. So it's nice to see some Scorch action. There's a lot of tricks with Scorch that you can do that you might not be aware of that you should definitely experiment with. Some of the best ones are you can fire the canisters of gas while you're doing other actions. And one of the best things to do is, you know, if somebody like a Ronin's pushing you and you've got your fire shield up and you're trying to stop him from getting too close, as he's coming towards you, if you look down with his shield up, toss a canister and set it on fire. If he stands in that, he's not going to last very long. And if you use the new upgrade in multiplayer so that your thermite doesn't do any damage to you, you can just bait people like that. Or even better, as they start coming forward, you can pop a canister behind them, you can melt them with the shield, and as they start backing up, you hit that firewall and boom, they back up into thermite. There's so many fun combinations that you can do with Scorch. The problem is, a lot of them are quite easy to avoid, and that's what makes him quite tricky to use, especially in multiplayer. In campaign, the AI is not the cleverest, so you can do a lot of damage with him. I've swapped to Scorch, to Tone, sorry, for some of the more range options. North Star would be fantastic here. and I don't really understand why the game doesn't give us some kind of New Game Plus feature. I was always hoping that in this free DLC and this support for Titanfall 2, that we would get something for the campaign. I don't know if it'd be DLC, I don't know if it'd be some kind of New Game Plus version where you can pick the weapons that you start with, you can maybe use the tacticals, you can go in there with a full Titan kit. I was just hoping for something, like a score mode. It doesn't really matter what it was going to be, I was just hoping for something. And after Frontier Defense released, there was an interview with the guys who were in charge of the franchise, and I think they pretty much said that that's kind of it now for Titanfall. There might be, you know, a couple more maps or something along those lines, maybe some more cosmetics, especially the paid cosmetics, because they make a lot of money from that stuff. But as far as content goes, and real content, I don't think you're going to see too much, and it's a bit disappointing, but what can you do, you know? They're a company, they have to make money, they have to focus on the next thing, and they can't keep supporting this game, especially when you consider that this game is not doing so well. Like, Frontier Defense has brought in some interesting additions to the numbers on Xbox at least. It's put it up to about 20,000 players, which is a nice number considering it capped at about 10 and it was going down. But the problem with that is I think a lot of them are actually playing Frontier Defense, so the people that are hoping for it to rejuvenate the multiplayer are perhaps not going to get the nice facial cleanse that they were hoping for from the fresh life being injected into the game. And there's a couple of reasons for this, I think. It's probably worth talking about in a separate video. But I think one of the biggest fundamentals for Titanfall, you know, being so one of those games where everybody who plays it thinks it's great and can't understand why more people don't play it. It's this weird adage that this game has attached to it. And you can analyse it in a million ways, but I think it's kind of the double-sided sword of the game is both too easy and too hard at the same time. I think that's what separates it from a lot of the contemporary shooters that it competes with. And you might be thinking, what the hell does that mean, Chris? Because it sounds like a complete contradiction. Well, if you ask somebody who's pretty good at this game, they will tell you that it has a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling. But they'll also tell you that because the time to kill is so quick, and because there's so much bullshit in the game, it means that anybody can do well, anybody can kill even the best pilots, because there's a lot of tools that essentially even the playing field. The people who like skill-based games, and games that only the most elite can play, they're not the biggest fan of these equalizing properties. It's just how it works. So those people will say, the game is too easy, it should be harder. And then you have the new players, who, if you go on Reddit, they're all over Reddit saying about how they don't know what they're doing wrong, they never get more than like 2 kills, they can never kill Titans, their Titan dies really quickly, and they're asking for tips because they feel like they're hurting the team and they quit a lot of games because of it. I've seen hundreds of these threads. And for that person, the skill ceiling's a little bit too high, because there are so many things they have to think about, and if they've come from something like Halo, in Halo, the highest skill ceiling in that is the gun skill. It's 100% gun skill, right? Gun skill teamwork, Halo. If you move with your team, if you team fire a lot of people, and your aim is good, you're going to be a good Halo player. Halo is more about reserve and playing intelligently than it was ever about being a lunatic rushing like a knobhead trying to kill everything on your own. It's just not the game it was. You can get away with that if you're a great player and you move correctly, but for the most, all your skills are gun skill and moving as a team. So if you come from Halo to Titanfall, that doesn't happen in Titanfall. The gun skill is there, but because the time to kill is so quick, it's not as extreme. So you might be able to carry in those gun skills and have a lot of success, which is awesome. But the whole team thing, I've never seen a team in Titanfall move as a team because the maps are too big, the chaos is surrounding everything. It's too mad, basically. So they're going to go to that game and it's going to be an adjustment because not only is it incredibly fast, it's way faster than what they're used to, there's way more chaos, but there's also way more things happening. The vehicles in Halo will probably help these people because they'll be used to all the different facets of the battlefield, which is helpful, but it's still going to be an adjustment to them, and it might be an adjustment that takes too long and they get stomped a lot and they don't want to do it. Look at people coming from Call of Duty. You come from Call of Duty, the only things you have in common are a very similar game feel and the high time to kill. Everything else is different. In COD, how many people do you see using the new movement systems? Only the good players, right? The majority of people still run around COD as if it's, you know, bloody World at War. Doesn't really matter to them. They use those same systems. So to them, every gunfight is on one field, one playing field. That's all you ever see, right? So they have the high time to kill, they have the similar movement, and they have this obsession with fighting everything on the same plane. And then you play Titanfall, and there's a dude on a roof 90 feet above you that you can't even figure out how to get on. There's a dude to your left, there's a dude above him on the mid-terrain, wall running, hopping between two walls, you can't even keep up with him and you're dead. So, you come from these backgrounds of games and you play Titanfall and it is so different in so many ways. On your one side, you've got those good players that want it to be harder. On the other hand, you've got those bad players who want it to be easier. There's no easy middle ground with this game. And I think that that is one of the biggest reasons why it is looked upon in the way it is looked upon. Because if you look at the most popular shooters on the market at the moment, it is always the ones that are the most accessible and the ones that make every player feel like they can do something. And Titanfall does this in many ways, which I think are even better than the ones that are more popular than it. But I still think, at the end of that match, when you notice that you haven't killed many players or you haven't killed any Titans, I think it can have a bigger burn than something like Overwatch, where you definitely felt like you helped the team, you definitely felt like you were on the objective, you know. Call of Duty is one of those games where everybody gets a few kills. Even if you're doing terribly, you still generally get a couple of kills, because you can... Think about when you play COD. How many times do you run around a map, see nobody, and the moment you turn your back, a guy shoots you from behind? The guy who shot you from behind gets a free kill because you turned around at the wrong moment. How many times are you a victim of luck in any multiplayer game? And then think about Call of Duty and then multiply it by 1,000,000, because that's just how that game works. You die too fast to turn around most of the times, and it's going to happen to you even if you're the best player in the world, because the spawns are not the best, and it's just the game, right? So even if you go 10 and 50 or 10 and 30, you still got 10 kills, you still felt like you were dominating a couple of people, right? Well, how many times do you see people finish in Titanfall with no pilot kills, or one pilot kill? It happens all the time. An entire game of attrition, a 10-minute game of attrition, to 450 points or whatever the score is now. Not a single pilot kill. It happens. And it happens because there's so many more layers that these new players aren't used to contending with. And I think a lot of them are like, it's a fun game, it's a great game, but it takes too much. Whereas, you know, the guys who made that most recent video of Project Nessie, like, we want it to go back to Titanfall 1 where it was skillful, this is too easy. So there's almost no way to bridge these two audiences, because the one hand, they want it to be fucking insane execution, and then the other guys are like, how do I play this game?